Welcome to this week's mini deep dive. I'm Matt Healy, and I'm the center mid philosopher. If you could combine the charming networking skills of Jerry Maguire, the enigmatic covert machinations of Kaiser Soze, and have him work at Real Madrid, you'd only begin to describe the man they call the architect, Juni Calafat. Born in Spain but raised in Sao Paulo, he arrived at Valdebebas in 2014 to be the head of recruitment for South America. Today, he holds the position of chief scout and director of international football at Real Madrid. People close to him describe him as a football madman. To widen his network, make sure that no future talent escapes him, he has the dream of a team of international scouts who help him make reports and keep up to date on the situation of every player who might be of interest. He also has an endless archive of video that he uses in scouting. His formal name is Jose Antonio Calafat de Souza, but everyone calls him Juni. He does not speak with the press, and his public profile is on par with that of the Invisible Man. He is the kind of person whom the adjective like mysterious readily stick, and with good reason. He is Real Madrid's chief scout, yet his name is not even listed on the club's website. He does not deal with formal contracts. His job is to sell Real Madrid as the perfect place for the players to realize their potential. The 50-year-old was born in the Spanish capital to a Brazilian mother and has spent his childhood in the youth in Brazil and has been with Real Madrid since 2014. With his status and remit growing behind the scenes ever since, he might lack the media exposure and other recruitment specialists from La Liga like Sevilla's Monkey or Barcelona's Mateo Alemany, but within the game he is recognized as one of the most powerful. Calafat started out as a journalist, coming to prominence as an analyst on the television show Fiebre Maldini. His knowledge of South American football in particular has won him many admirers and eventually earned him a scouting position at Real. Among his early recommendations and wins was Casemiro, a gifted player but not obviously a star in waiting. The success of that transfer only added to his mystique, and while not all his subsequent picks have been quite so spectacular, he clearly has an eye for potential. Fede Valverde, the all-action Uruguayan midfielder, was another indelible tick in the win column. Calafat's main area of influence is South America, where he discovered gems like Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Fede Valverde. He also monitored Eder Militao in Europe, and he brought in Martin Odegaard and Eduardo Camavinga. And he is not only involved in the recruitment of promising young players, but has played a pretty big role in Germany international Antonio Rudiger. Real Madrid spent years courting Neymar and his family after they snubbed them to remain at Santos and then ultimately break their hearts even further in the worst way possible by committing to Barcelona. Ever since then, Real Madrid has been obsessed with never letting that happen again, Calafat leading the charge. Other clubs can free up the sort of funds, but Real have been winning the hearts and minds, convincing youngsters and their families that their project is right for them. It is a question of feeling, of trust, and of belonging. These matters require a personal touch, a fact which goes without in some way with explaining why, in this era of bloated scouting networks and talent identification departments, one man in particular is swaying things in Real's favor, Juni Calafat. His links with Brazil mean that he controls that particular market very well, but his attention has since turned to the global reach. But where Brazil remains his primary area of expertise. And for all his ability as a talent spotter and his knack for connecting with young players around them, that is what sets him apart. This much quickly becomes clear when you speak to anyone involved in the Vinicius, Rodrigo, and most recently, Endrick transfers. It helps that Calafat is fluent in Portuguese. He is Spanish, but spent much of his childhood in Sao Paulo. But it goes beyond that. He understands that parents and the culture, family values, and of course, their agents. I can't imagine the hours and weeks and months and years fostering those relationships, especially in Brazil, with plenty of nefarious characters around. But Calafat puts in the hard yards. In the case of Vinicius, that meant 14 months of meetings with the player and his loved ones before Real ultimately reached an agreement with Flamengo in May of 2017. Rodrigo Catanal, the Brazilian club's director of football at the time, recalls being bowled over by Calafat's measured, patient approach. In Vinny Jr.'s case, it required getting to know his extended family and coaches. For Rodrigo, it was a courtship that lasted 4 years. It started when he was just 13. Calafat's role in negotiations is constant, and one in particular story involved Vinicius Jr. is illustrative of his commitment. Before his $45 million transfer to Real Madrid was agreed upon in May of 2017, Vinicius, 16-year-old at the time, traveled to Madrid with his parents and his uncle and a representative to check out the club's facility and get a better feel for the place. He had already done the same at Barcelona, who believed they were the ones that were going to win him over. When the family landed at Madrid's airport, it emerged that Vinicius' mother's suitcase had been lost in transit. Calafat took the family straight to a branch at El Corte Inglés, the high-end department store, giving each a voucher to spend whatever they want on replacement clothing. It made a really positive impression with his family. To Vinicius' family, Calafat had gone above and beyond to help them in the face of unforeseen circumstances. After the trip, Madrid came after at least 5 Calafat to Brazil when he met Vinicius and his family. Real Madrid knew they were competing with Barcelona, and the smallest details mattered. Calafat was also instrumental in getting Tchouaméni the deal over the line, traveling to Monaco to ensure the process was smooth and to help strengthen Madrid's position in the negotiations. Vinicius Jr. arrived from Flamengo, and Rodrigo was brought in from Santos. Both players cost $45 million each and are now worth double and triple that. An example of Calafat's work is the signing of Valverde, who we discussed earlier, was brought from Uruguayan giants Peñarol. Madrid paid only $5 million for him in 2016 when he was worth $450,000. 7 years later, he is a player that many view to be worth at least $100 million or more. South America is still home to many players that Calafat and Madrid want to target in the future. The race to identify and sign the best Brazilian youngsters is intensifying. The biggest clubs no longer are content to wait until they're 19, 20, 21. They want to get the deal done when they're 16 or 17, monitor their progress closely until they can move, and then shape his tactical and technical development. This has changed even more in the last decade. Vinicius was on the cover of the Spanish sports daily Marca even before training with Flamengo's first team. And then, of course, one for the future is Endrick, who's only 17 right now and is already signed for Madrid and should be transferring this summer. Everybody wanted his signatures, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, and, of course, La Liga rivals Barcelona. And they feel like Calafat was the main reason they won him. All the big teams have a massive presence in Brazil, of course. Real Madrid, Man City, Barcelona, but of course, a lot of them have operations in Buenos Aires as well. Barcelona rely heavily on Deco, their former midfield in Brazil, but it's only becoming more and more challenging, and it seems as though Calafat is the victor. Calafat's success demonstrates anything if it's the quiet, diligent work can win out in the end. The results speak for themselves with significant cachet in the game. We will never know what would have happened if Neymar had joined, but Vinicius and Rodrigo are no sane person's idea of a consolation prize. And while Endrick may or may not become a superstar, Real's man in Brazil has put them in the position to find out. Real Madrid's football operations are really run by 3 people. Florentino Perez, naturally, is the figurehead. Below him is the universally popular Jose Angel Sanchez. And then third is chief scout Calafat. It's a lofty position for a man who got his first break working as a Brazilian football pundit on Spanish television. Three of his colleagues from those TV days have since followed him to Real Madrid. Even then, with no formal club role, Calafat was well connected and friendly with a number of Brazilian players, including Ronaldo and Kaká. In the summer of 2019, when Real Madrid were looking to sign center back, Calafat was instrumental in shifting Florentino Perez's thinking away from Matthijs de Ligt of Ajax and point him in the direction of Eder Militao instead. De Ligt had been impressive for the Dutch champions in the Champions League and was a more glamorous choice, befitting that of the Galacticos era under Perez's previous philosophy. Yet Calafat felt that modern football needed more center backs with pace and favored Militao. His argument was clearly persuasive, and in March of 2019, Madrid agreed to pay FC Porto $50 million for the fee and a chance to sign the former Sao Paulo defender. Over time, Perez came to trust Calafat more and more. He's not been undefeated, though. There's been a couple that haven't quite panned out quite as well. The notorious midfielder Lucas Silva, signed for $14 million from Cruzeiro in 2015. Has been sent home 2 years later. Reinier Jesus, playmaker signed from Flamengo for $30 million, was supposed to be the latest to follow in the footsteps of Vinicius and Rodrigo. He's never played for Madrid's first team yet, and he's failed to impress on a couple loans at Borussia Dortmund and is now rebuilding his career at Girona. William Jose was unable to establish himself at the club after arriving in 2014, but has gone on to succeed at Real Sociedad and Real Betis. It hasn't been completely, not everything he's done has been a complete Midas touch. However, his wins, vastly outweigh his losses. So valuable. So Calafat's hands-on globe-trotting style has seen him crop up in the most unexpected of places. In July of 2019, Vinny Jr. and his representatives were en route to Japan on business when they were surprised to discover that Calafat was already there. Days later, news emerged that Real Madrid had the intent to sign Kubo from FC Tokyo, beating Barcelona in that deal as well. So valuable is Calafat that Chelsea have been rumored to have made him an offer 4 or 5 times the salary paid at Real Madrid. Calafat's role at the club cannot be understated, being one of Florentino Perez's and Sanchez's most important men. The talent spotter has been a key figure in Madrid's success of late and has become the architect behind the club's dominance in the transfer market. So, hope you learned a little bit more about Real's most recent dominance and the man behind their current team, as they call the architect. Thanks so much for joining. Please like, comment, subscribe.